Yeah, right here. What's your name again? This is what I'm talking. This is what I'm talking about. I go, Robbie. I mean, so basically, what I've done here is I've locked this. I forgot about it. I've locked this into whatever reserve mode. I'm right reserve on there, so I never forget it. I've locked it manually into reserve, which is what he did he do yesterday? Did he lock something? Anyway, so at the moment you can see there what it does. It gives you the incoming voltage, and then it gives you what the battery voltage is. And you, by the fact that it's 29.2, you know it's not being used. As soon as the batteries take the load, that will go down, because it just will. It just goes down to, like, say 28, and you know, and after about, like, say 10 minutes, it'll be on 26.2 for just forever, and then it just drops straight off. It doesn't come down linearly. So that breaker there is the feed going into here, which is actually, you think it's the battery charger. I've always seen it as the feed for the battery charger that's in this, that charges these batteries. But it's actually, it should be commensurate with, to be able to take 3 kilowatts, which is 12 amps. So it's probably just about the size, a bit undersized, but it's not going to melt. I mean, it needs to be like 1.5 mil cable, really. That's like 1 mil or something. And so it would be getting hot. Because what could happen in theory is you could be feeding this with electricity from there, and like what's happened now, it must be feeding the non-essential board, because so this is the output. This is the output here, right? And it goes up into here. Now this cable should come out the bottom, but this has failed inside. There's something wrong with it. So I got her to actually fix this a few times. Actually, she changed that breaker failed one time. I had it on the testers and everything. When I was in England, and I was saying test there. And I went, yeah, that's knackered. I says, right, so I ordered a new one. She fitted it. She loves doing stuff like that, even if she's incompetent at doing it. So she did this as well, and she did it really dangerous doing, but at least I bypassed it. You know what I mean? So that says 242. So that he's seeing the voltage leaving here. Right, but it's nothing goes through. The thing is, remember I was talking about this whole thing of like, it's 2.3 there, but it says 2.42 there. We're in that mode now because I'm actually in reserve mode. So it means that I am actually that non-essential board, which is fed from here. Look. Now you had that situation where the bottom was linked up, right, and that goes to this here, that cable here. Is the feed to here, to all this, right? And the moment, because that's in reserve mode, it means that the power, that's incoming power from the government, right? Like you had on that side, and then you had another smaller cable on there, didn't you? So that is this. It goes there to there, and it goes around, and it goes into here, right? So the inverter is putting out the power to there. So we are using the inverter power now to put into there. And that's on 29.2. Now normally, if we were in reserve mode at the moment, if that was over to reserve, meaning backup, meaning we've activated the automatic transfer switch, we're not using incoming power from the government, which is where it'd be on normal, it's on R, right? He's only here to play with that phone. And then so at the moment we're in like backup mode. We would be in a FIDAP, wouldn't we? But the thing is, because I've just done that there, and it's not a real FIDAP because the voltage is all right. The voltage is going to here at a decent voltage, where normally that would have no voltage, right? This is sort of what I was doing. And also I need to correct something. I went on ad infinitum, is that the word, about the fact that power could come into here at a low voltage, like 200 volts, and somehow it's coming out of here at higher voltage. Now what it is this is reading wrong by about 11 to 12 volts. So it looks like this box is somehow making up for when power comes in. It's somehow doing something auto transformer wise with this. Could I? See that big winding there? That's the torino thing, right? So now I think you've understood to there that basically we haven't got a FIDAP, but I've put it into FIDAP mode. Normally, if that was ever there, that would be dead, right? Because when this dies, So when this voltage goes below, used to be 200 volts, now through to 175. The output would be stopped, so there'd be no ampage on there, it'd be 0, 0. There'd probably be a light bleed there, and because the power had gone from here 100%, it senses that these two terminals, this senses that these two terminals have got no power. Here it says it's got power, but we're not using it. This says we've got power, but we are using this side, the reserve side. So, to the moment we've got power here. Normally we wouldn't have it, would we? Because whenever that was switched over, that would be gone. That would not be there. So what would also, by the fact that it's switched over and there's no power there would also be no power in the non-essential. But this is the non-essential side. So that breaker there that puts 240 volts to here, which we're sort of seeing here, right? Now, this brake would be on, but the thing is, because that power there has gone, this board would be dead, so there'd be no power here. So you see that if this, normally when this switch is on reserve, right, it's done it because those two terminals have lost voltages because of that voltage there is lower or disappeared. Remember, that's normally lower than 200, but I've changed it to 175. So it very rarely now does go, and this is a real outage. Right, so that's dead. That would be dead. That would have been lost. Obviously, this is dead. There's no voltage there, and we've changed over to R. So it then decides to. It says we've got no voltage there. That would be missing, and but now suddenly you then see that which I'll demonstrate now. You'll see that voltage was suddenly. It proved the fact that it's 292 means that even though we're in reserve mode and all this, you know, everything from here, this fan here, right? Let's turn it on. This is my table. Everything here from that socket. There's a socket up there and lights and stuff like that. I can even. Right, so switch them on. It's just that light there. So that's off of the inverter at the moment, and if that battery voltage is not going down, that's why I put this on, because I like to see how much the inverter, because it gives it the power from there, right? You know, so this here is that look. And when I took the outgoing, which basically goes into here, and then so you can have the mains power or the inverter power feed the bottom. We'll put power to the bottom, so you join them up. They don't tell you that, you know. You have to work that out yourself. They just give you two outputs. We join them together, and then that feeds this fuse board. So at the moment, you can see, you know, this fan is off main electrics, the main that you have to do essential. So yeah, you see there, that light's on. These ones are on auto. They turn off. So that's on. So that's proof that is off of the essential wood. Now that is on through. It's in reserve mode. I'm going on a bit now, but the thing is, at the end, you'll know exactly what I'm doing here. So what I'm now going to do, I'm now going to simulate this being in reserve mode when it's in an actual fired app, and what happens to this. What I say, somehow this is in some kind of UPS mode. What I'm going to do is when I do it, how I'm going to simulate it is, I'm going to turn the power off to this cable, which is that fuse, which is also fed from there. But I'm going to simulate us losing the power. I'm going to simulate that dying completely. And then obviously this board will be dead, and then that way this should be gone. So when I do it, right, you'll hear me click, and we'll see whether that even goes out for a split second and changes over, which is what it should do. We should think it would, but I think this is fed all the time. There's a switch inside here, it's called a quick switch, right? Not like these aren't quick switches, these are just auto changeovers. So when I click that down, I don't think that will go off. There, did it? And then when you come here, you look at the voltage, you're on 28.5 volts, and now suddenly the voltage, that was basically holding everything up, right? And as soon as it might have not even been it just means that the outgoing voltage from here was being somehow, voltage was coming in and voltage was going out, but we also had the inverter voltage, which comes from the batteries, and then is inverted inside here. Its waveform it's changed from DC to AC for its waveform, and then How is it stepped up in voltage? That must be that toroidal transformer, where that comes in. You know what I mean? It must be, mustn't it? Yeah. So yeah, so there you've seen it with your own eyes, and then what happens then is, when you turn it back on again, right, bump, there you go, and then it starts charging again. It says we've got the AC back, or we go back off again. See, there's no, the lights do not even, no. And it could be a quick switch though. It could be a quick switch, because some things just literally, when you lose the power so quickly, they don't, you can't even see it. And that's that light is a electronic, isn't it? It's an LED. As I say, there's a fan over there. Let's go put on the fan. Let's see whether when we lose the power again. So now mains power is feeding via the inverter. It's basically full UPS mode, I think. Yeah, it didn't stop, did it? Turn it back on again. There you go. So my point here is, because you're going to say, still, what's your point? Is that I can leave this in this mode. I've done it before. I've just basically locked this. You lock this in a mode where this fuse here, and really the cable of the fuse, I could do doubling it up or making it bigger. At the moment, it's been doing it. It's been doing it for a while, because I left that on at some point, so I forgot to turn it back. So it's been in reserve mode, which means that the power, the outgoing power, it's like the stuff that's not there. It just goes straight to, not here. This is going straight to there. So you just feed from there to here, and then when it loses it, the batteries just take over, and it's like a UPS. You never get any, like, your internet needing to reset the router and take time. That's it. There you go. So, as I say, your setup there, obviously it's no slight on you. You know, I'm just saying it. You know, it's so overcomplicated, and I believe that they're probably not as clever as they think they are, or what they've just copied it from somebody, copied the whole thing, or he is clever. But why you need that much? You've got two fuse boards. I would have just looked at them and gone, right, let's start messing some of an essential and non-essential. But your stuff there, and also if your air conditioning units are big, you know, I mean, they have to have this thing where they have that inverter you've got there needs to, what they do, when the compressor starts up the first time, if it takes too much in rush currents, what it does is your inverter trips out, and you immediately swap back to you inside the like, multi-hybrid inverter. The input, the inverter will have seen that high inrush, and it will say, "No, we're not handling that. I'm not putting that through the MOSFETs." What we'll do, we'll click back to mains feed all the time. We won't feed anything in the house through the inverter for a while through the MOSFETs. What we'll do, we'll just use mains power and they'll use the quick switch inside. And what they do, they then wait for something like 5 minutes, and then they think by that time that the compressor, the air conditioning unit, which first off would have tried to start but wasn't allowed to, so it would have gone for a restart, right? And then by which time it comes through, and it's then when it does the restart, it's on mains power, so it starts up. And then what they do, because it like you saw there with electronics, when they use a quick switch, when it switches back to inverter out power inside the hybrid inverter, it's already started. So what it does, it clicks back, and now it repowers it, but while it's running. It does that. It's a good idea, really, that someone's thought out the box that we could do this, couldn't we? But you know what I mean? Obviously, the best way to do it is just have if you've got inverter compressors, when they start up, they start up low, so it doesn't matter. You can feed everything from the hybrid. Yeah, but say I'd buy an hybrid. I did think about buying a hybrid a while back, and what I was going to use it for was I was going to borrow her sister's solar panels, put them here, and I was going to maybe heat some water or something like that, and have it dedicated. But I could use the even though I'm not interested in using the inverter itself because I've got one, right? You can always have it there as a I could have a changeover. I could have a power coming from here into another changeover switch, and then I could have power. I could have the 240 volt power from the new hybrid inverter. I just have like a 6 kilowatt or something small, nothing all the way cheap. I'm talking something last hour when there's a special on. I had one the other day, and it was a good make, and it was like about like 4,000 baht. You know what I mean? 3,000, 3,500. And what I was going to do with it was I was going to use its facility for solar as a solar charger. So what I do is I get her sister's back, but says, "Look, I'll borrow them off you, or I'll give you, I'll hire them off you if you want." I'm not buying them, right? They're old, they're pretty old now, but there's nothing wrong. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but they're old hat. So I borrow them off her, give them $500 to borrow them for a season, and then I get them, connect them into the hybrid inverter that I buy, right? That's what I'm going to do. Put it on the wall here. I've got solar power. Then I come out, and then I charge my batteries, right? Charge my batteries so I get to charge my batteries. So they instead of discharging them, I'll be directly charging them. So this will go, oh, don't need to charge them, they're charged already. So I do that, and then I'll also then do something where I'm heating water all day or something like that. I've got a little heater, you know what I mean? So there's that. Actually, it's here. Yeah, look, this here, I employed that. This is like a special cable that's hard, and you wrap it round pipes for drainage, called trace heating, isn't it? And you wrap it round pipes in freezers, and you can basically keep a copper pipe that's got water in it for drainage from defrost water in a -20. You can keep it at, like, say 10 degrees. So obviously you put this in normal water here, you can make the water really, you can, this is self-limiting, you can get it up to like about 37 degrees, you get 37 degree water, but it's a very, very low ampage, so you just keep it there all the time. And that's what I was going to do, and have a big tank of warm water at the back there, so you never have to use a shower, which is 20 amps, you know what I mean, for however long, especially when the older son was in it, he'd be sitting there for 20 minutes, you know what I mean, 20 amps, you do the maths. Anyway, so then, so I'll do that. So I'd have my panels, I'd have that solar inverter, I'd use the solar charger facility inside there. Then what I could have then is I could have the 240 volts that it is making all the time, right? Because it would be connected to the batteries as well, right? So I'd have like two of them in parallel. Then what I'd do is I could have the power, I could have it as a backup, because I wouldn't use one of the hybrids because they're just going to break down. They're on all the time. What I do is have the power out, going out. So it's making power. It makes 240 volts anyway, because we know. And then I'll bring it along to another. I'd have a second switch like that. So I'd have that coming along into one as the reserve one, and I'd have this power here. This power here, which is going into there. I'd have it first going to another switch. That would be mains power to that water changes, and out at the bottom there, I'd come up, and I'd take it to here. So my reserve power from two inverters would go through an ATS first, and auto changeover, and automatic transfer switch. I'd have both supplies, which are both are backups, coming out and going up, and then feeding the backup side of my main automatic transfer switch. Yeah, there you go. So I think I've got to the end of it. There you go. So yeah, I'm not. But then you think, Steve, why don't you carry this on then? About leave this in that mode, so this is always feeding that, so it's like a UPS, because the thing is, at the moment this only ever gets to use its MOSFETs to make AC to DC, right, and change the 24 volts, which is in that box there. All the batteries are all in there, right? Lithium 3.2 volt, it's lithium ion, right? So LiFePOs, lithium ion, ferrous, PO is phosphor, isn't it, something like that, LiFePOs. So the thing is, you see, at the moment I'm just making electricity. There's ampage going through this now. It's running that fan over there, these lights, do you know what I mean? So if I turned off the electricity now, this would be funny, because actually this was happening the other day. Now if I turn off the feed to this, right, so now what's just happened now, I've just changed. Now somehow that battery now, I've just turned it off. So these batteries now are not feeding this. It's that voltage there. It's not. I don't think it's not real. What's happening is the printed circuit board inside here, right, is basically full of ampage, and that's going to wind it. That 29 volt battery will, unless that's a faulty switch somehow, which I don't think it is. That's going to slowly drain, because if that really was 29.1, right, when if I remove the voltage now, you'll suddenly see everything break. So as soon as I take off, I think to the left hand side of the inverter, in that there, you can see that light's on there. So you'll be able to see the way you'll set go off now. What I'm going to do, I'm going to switch off that breaker, which is basically the feed into this, and you're going to see everything die. This whole thing will die. And that light over there. There. So that's 29 volts. It wasn't real, was it? It was crap. What it was stuck in the. It filled up the printed circuit board. So it was holding the 29 volts. So if I turn, because if I turn the on-off switch now, nothing will happen. But if I turn this on and then I press this for 5 seconds, now suddenly when it comes on, it'll take. Output voltage is 230, 240, because that's reading 10 to 12 high, right? Then if I go through here and have a look at my voltage, the actual voltage of my battery that's supplying this to make it, it's on 28.8. If I then switch this on, and you're going to do it in this order, by the way. If you turn on the power, if you let the power into here on first without charging the battery, the actual the amount of ampage it tries to get pulled to charge that ends up blowing this 10 amp C-type breaker, which is weird. So because you think, yeah, so there you go. It's coming on now, Dan. So it's upset their internet. You see their internet's gone. There you go. It's now also the 29. It's come up to 29 now. Because now what it's done is decided, oh, inside in there there's a switch. Inside there there's a switch, and it's gone, oh right, okay, so power's come on. We've got good power. Let's not use the batteries. Let's just use incoming power to feed out instead. As I say, well, I don't do it like that, but it's good. It's a good little feature. So that's all like that now. And then what I'll now do is I'll just switch this back to here. That's it now. So then no. So now we're just feeding. Now it's that power. Sorry. That power's there, which we know it's there because that's going to the back for the inverter, and that one there is from the main. So now it's just decided we'll just use normal power to feed that board, and that way now inside here I'm not using all my MOSFET, so this can happily stay for years, and I'm not using anything. All we're going to have a fully charged battery. We're going to have this here that is giving electricity right up to there because we've got it here, but that's it. It's the end of it. It's actually not using it for any. We're not using the electricity. We're not using the electricity. We're just there. But those MOSFETs and they've got no ampage. There's no ampage on that. I don't know what they call it now. Where they use the MOSFETs, it's a bridge. It's a rectifier, and it's a bridge rectifier. That's how they make AC into DC, by stopping it on the one when it flips to negative on the waveform, right? Or positive, I don't know. On one side of the waveform, remember it goes under the sine wave. It gets blocked from the feed to the